right, this is how the Ice Bear Champion is delivered. Truck will show up. Guy, if he's friendly, will pallet jack it up into your driveway or wherever he can. Personally, I drove to the warehouse and picked mine up since it's only maybe 30, 40 miles away. But I believe it's free delivery in the 48 states. And I'm guessing that probably takes 5 or 6 days, depending on where you are. I know they have warehouses on the West Coast and they have a warehouse in Texas. So however long that may take to ship something by truck to your location. So the bike comes in a metal crate. As you can see here, it's held together with bolts and nuts. In this corner, the battery is taped inside the battery box, the box that it comes in. I've already removed it and put it on the charger. Important information on the outside of the box right here. It's your VIN number, your engine number, the color, some other information. You'll need that info to fill out the registration form that Bobcats will send you. And then you're gonna send that to, I think, reg@bobcats.com. I'll put the link in the description. And they will send you the information and or documentation that's needed for you to go to the DMV and register this bike and get some plates for it. So let's rip this metal crate off of here and move on to the next step. I'm not gonna bore you with that, so when we come back, it'll just be the bike in a bag. All right, bike in a bag. So you should end up with a bike in a bag, a box, and a front tire. At this point, we just have to remove the front axle bolt. It goes through the crate right here. Oh yeah, and if you have gloves, put them on. That metal leaves nasty black all over your hands. The Champion is out of the bag. This is what you should end up with. Of course, the battery is inside on the charger, so that's not shown. But we have a Champion with a hairnet or shower cap on the seat. I've removed the bubble wrap. There's some bubble wrap around the frame here to protect it. The front fender is in that bubble wrap bag that it's sitting on, and it's located right above the rear tire. It's kind of wedged in there. The rear rack is in that bubble wrap bag, and it's inside the pallet underneath the bike itself. There's a box. In that box, I believe there's a manual, some zip ties, and some rear view mirrors, and then your front tire. Don't forget to air up your tires before you go for a ride. I know it's tempting to get it together and want to go rip, but there's things that need to be done before you do that. Number one thing is probably warm it up and get that oil out, because it even tells you not to use the oil that's in it. In several locations it says that. So warm it up, drain that oil, and put some real oil in there. I don't know how fake that oil is, but they don't want you to use it. Yeah, air the tires, change the oil, charge the battery, assemble. Not necessarily in that order. And that's your Ice Bear kit. In about an hour and a half, you'll end up with that. Let's pop the front tire on. Looks like they already put some in there. I usually cram some grease in here. There's a seal right here, and dry seals fail. And this one looks like it's dry already, or maybe that's just the lube they put on it. Yeah, maybe that's just the grease they put on it. But seals need lube, or it's rubber against metal and then failure occurs. So pack some grease in here. It doesn't hurt anything. And I use waterproof grease, marine grade. On the other side, there's a seal here as well. I pack some grease in here. Is it needed? I'm gonna say yes. A lot of people throw them together without grease. The one place you don't really need grease is on this bolt, because it sits in a race on the bearing and the bearing itself spins. But I put a little layer of grease on here just as a corrosion preventative, right? That way next time when you take it out, it actually comes out instead of being rusted in there. So yeah, Let's do this. Now is probably a good time to review the box of goodies here because we need something out of here. But anyway, got your Harley Davidson heel toe shifter. For your first couple hundred miles, you might want to put this on because she's pretty hard to put into first, second, third, fourth, and then all the way back up into neutral. It's easier to step back in the back here to get it back up. So the shift pattern is all up is neutral, and then one down, first, second, third, fourth, and then click, 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 up, 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 back to neutral. So that's how that works. What I'm looking for is this little spacer right here. It's a front wheel spacer. But let's look, what else we have in here? We have battery hold down, zip ties, and an owner's manual. And this box contains the rearview mirrors. So let's get this spacer out of the bag. It's the only spacer you have to deal with because the rear is already assembled, right? So this is what I was talking about over here. This is a steel riding on steel. So I always pack a bunch of grease in here for that reason. There we go. How do you get it all the way in? Sorry. So yeah, you get your steel riding on the seal here. Steel on seal, steel on rubber. And that can create, that's a friction point, right? So if you want your seal to last longer, just pack a bunch of grease in here. No one cares. It's not like it's gonna fly out anywhere. It's gonna waterproof that area a little bit too if you go through some puddles, right? All right. Also, pretty conveniently, they put a little spacer in here to keep the brake pads separated during shipping, right? That's kind of cool. I like that. They didn't do that before. When I used to work for Kawasaki and Yamaha, they didn't do this. So, yeah, good idea. Good idea. Coated things up with grease in here, over here. Fill this guy up with grease, and put a little coat of grease on the axle. Hopefully this all goes together. Front wheel on. Make sure you have a brake pad on each side. I know, funny, right? But it happens. Good amount of grease squeezing out, that's a good sign. Make sure your pin is lined up in the cutout on the speedometer drive. That keeps this housing from spinning. Gives you an accurate mile per hour indication on your speedometer. And don't forget your torques, right? Just because it's a Chinese mini bike doesn't mean you shouldn't torque things. This guy was 28 to 30 foot-pounds, I believe. It's a M10 bolt. After the front tire's on and the front axle is torqued properly, you can place your handlebars in the upright position. They're foldable, right? Old 60s, 70s Honda style. You loosen this nut and you twist the handlebars up until the pins are located in the grooves, then tighten the nut down. Obviously same on both sides. Then you should be able to come over, grab your brake lever, give it a few clicks like this, right? This seems to work better for building up pressure. I don't know if it's the vibrations or what, bringing all the air to the top, but after you flick it a couple times like that, look at that, solid. Solid. You basically have a bike at this point. But let's finish putting it together before we're tempted to go ride it, right? Oh, you know what? On the green one, the chain was hella tight. What do we got? This is actually not bad. The chain was so tight on the other one, you couldn't even move it. I'm gonna loosen that up some more though. I think they pre-tighten it because they know these cheap chains stretch. Probably something you should consider replacing after 100 or so miles, because I've read reports that these chains they're pretty bad. Reports also indicate that the swing arm bushings in here are bad after a few hundred miles, but there's an aftermarket solution on eBay. They're solid plastic bushings that tighten that up really well. So chain and sprockets, I don't know how well the sprockets wear, but chain sprockets in that bushing really are the only legitimate issues with the bike. But maybe they've solved that, I don't know. This is a 2025 model. There's been even more upgrades in 2024. Who knows? Time will tell. Front fender on. 8mm, 10mm underneath, nuts, washer. Kind of a hokey, cheesy mounting situation, but I mean, it works, right? I can't imagine the chroming on the bike is that great. So hopefully if you're buying one of these, you're gonna be able to store it in a garage or at least covered up. My fender mount looks like it had suffered a little catastrophic impact during shipping. I didn't notice that until after I tried to put the fender on, but this tab was bent pretty badly. Just bent it back, but the chrome flaked off because, you know, China. But it's not a complaint. I definitely got more than what I paid for. Remember, it's $14.99. There's pairs of shoes that cost more than that. Harley heel toe shifter installed. While I'm over here, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna heat up this little screwdriver with this little torch. And that's a plastic plug that I want to remove right there. Gives you access to the idle mixture screw. Now, this is not part of this setup. This is probably against the law in your state because you're messing with the emissions if you turn that screw. But I found the bike runs a whole lot better if you set that screw at a 1/2 to 3/4 turns out from close, which would be all the way in clockwise, right? Close it. Actually, before you do that, check it, right? Close it and start counting your turns. See how far it's open from the factory. But the green bike over there idles and runs perfectly with it set on 1/2 turn out from close. And that's what I'm gonna set this one at as a starting point. Little plug out. You can see there, if we can get a focus, there we go. You have a mixture, idle mixture screw. Here's your little plug. It's a little plastic guy. Pretty easy to get out. So I set that at 1/2 turn out. It was 1.25 turns out from the factory. Now the odd thing is, typically, if the mixture screw is on this side of the slide, it adjusts fuel. If it's on that side of the slide towards the air filter, it adjusts air. This one acts like it's adjusting air, because the more you close it off, the richer the bike runs. Don't know, man. I mean, a pretty common mod or a popular mod is to put a Nibby 22 on here anyway, so that could happen. But I'm not gonna do any modifications at all until after California graces me with a registration and a license plate, right? Because they're gonna wanna see this sticker. This is the sticker that says, this vehicle conforms to US EPA and California regulations applicable to 2025 model year new highway motorcycles and is certified to blah, 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 blah. So yeah, don't remove that sticker, whatever you do, especially if you're in California, until you get license plates. This one or that one, I don't know which one yet, we'll get a full aftermarket front and rear suspension. We'll see how that goes, and if we like it, we'll do the same with the other one, right? I'm thinking about putting the aftermarket suspension on the bike I ride because I'm twice the weight of my wife. She's only like 115 pounds, so that's probably what this bike was built for, 100 to 150 pound rider. And I'm 210, so yeah. Anyway, let's, we're getting close, right? We only have the back rack to go. And she's together, the back rack and the mirror. Starting to look like a motor scooter. Not a motor scooter, an Ice Bear Champion. All right, we're gonna poke around under the seat now because we gotta get the back rack on, right? Looks like they've got some pretty decent amount of grease on this one, which is good. Because the way this comes down, at the angle that it comes in, you know, it kind of comes in like this, right? And so before the thing is completely vertical, it gets a little tight, kind of binds up in there. So you're gonna wanna either use something like this to keep that rubber nice and lubricated, or in this case, they put a bunch of grease on it. I'll put some of the grease over here, right? Does it really need that much over there? I don't know. Put some over here. Okay, so just a tip for making the seat open and close easier. There's also a million warning stickers. The good news is they come off pretty easy. I mean, they're literally everywhere. There's several on the side too, on the engine. It's crazy. 1, 2, 3. There's 4 right here. Another one up here by the gas tank. Anyway, we're getting there. It's only been, I don't even know that it's been an hour yet. And keep in mind, I'm filming while I'm doing this. So. The rear rack is interesting in that it looks like you have one washer and a nut on this side from the factory. So that tells me it's using this muffler bracket as a washer. So the rear rack tab will go right against this. On this side, you get 3 washers. So that tells me that a washer goes on. Make sure you tap the shock all the way on the post there. And then the rack tab, and then 2 more washers, and then it tightens up. Now these acorn nuts seem to bottom out before they actually tighten up, so I'm gonna get some nylon nuts to put on here. Just because. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the way they do it, but it's not how I like it. But let's see if we can get this on. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna do it right there. And then on this side, let's grab these washers. 1, 2, acorn nut. And then on this side, washer, acorn nut. Okay, don't tighten those up yet because you have to fit these into this tube and line up with those threaded holes, right? So you need to be able to move up and down and back and forth a little bit to get these started. Inserted and torqued down. Looking good. After you get your rack on, it's nice and solid. These are kind of cattywampus, right? So we're gonna take our 17, we're gonna loosen these up. Then we're gonna hold these what we assume to be level and hang on to this rubber piece and tighten that up a little. Don't get crazy because that stud is just vulcanized into rubber. So you can imagine what would happen if you get a little caveman on it. It's gonna rip it right out of the rubber. So, some of these things, they don't need American strength on them. Just snug them up. Okay, I'm happy with the levelness of the turn signals. I did the front and the back. They look pretty decent. Next, we have to hook up the rear turn signals into the wiring loom here. And obviously, looking at these wires, black and white is the ground, right? And so that leaves you straight up black and green. Black's a weird color to be a power color, but okay. So I'm gonna try to use some logic here. Green is right, which is starboard. So let's wire in the green one to here and see what happens. So what's the common wire color on here? Green. So green's gonna be the ground. That's interesting. So we're gonna take the 2 greens, put them in the black and white, and then we're gonna take the right-hand hot, which is in this case is baby blue, and put it in the green. And we're gonna take the yellow or orange on this side and put it into the black. And that should be correct if nautical terms were used, right? Or aviation. So won't know until I get the battery in. It's inside charging. That'll be the final step after I get these lights hooked up here because we're running out of parts. All right, battery installed. This is how I routed the wires. Seemed the most logical, right? Positive around, tighten that down on there, bend this down a little bit so it's not sticking out. I removed the flasher on this side and ran the ground down around this way. Seemed the most logical way to go without binding wires or at least keeping them out of the way. And then battery hold down, that is in the bag with your owner's manual. And that's that for the battery. If you want to use LED turn signals, this is the flasher relay here, and you can buy a LED capable or friendly flasher on eBay, or not even eBay, probably eBay, but you can get them on Amazon for like $8. So keep that in mind if you want to switch to LEDs. And boom, there, gas tanks here. I've heard reports of some of these gas tanks having some cosmoline in them. The green one did not have any in it. It looked good. I'll have to check this one, but I believe we are done here. Let's see, key on. We're getting something. Oh yeah, let's see if our turn, so yeah, look at that. Green is right. Would you look at that? So horn, pretty loud actually. I don't know if the brake light will work without the engine running. Let's see, yes it does. The tail light and the headlight run off the dynamo, one of the yellow wires from the regulator rectifier. It's not an ideal setup, so there is a modification you can do. There is an orange wire in here, not the one from the turn signal, but there's an orange wire in here going to a black. You can create a short jumper that plugs in between those with butt or bullet connectors and have a third wire coming off, or will be a first wire or a second wire, whatever you want to call it, coming off. And you're going to pin that into the harness where the dynamo wire goes in. You're going to take that out, put in the orange tap. Orange is key on power. Orange, if you find an orange wire on the bike somewhere, that's key on power. Something to remember. That way the headlight runs off the battery and it doesn't flicker and or shut off at idle. Because it's an LED, if the voltage drops below the minimum required to ignite or light the LED, it will literally shut off, and so it'll start strobing at idle. A little bit annoying. But yeah, I think we're done. It just needs gas and then an oil change. And she's ready to zoom. Remember, you're gonna need this section off the box. Serial number, engine serial number, color, to fill out the registration sheet and send back to Bobcats. reg@bobcats.com, I believe, bobcatmotors.com. Anyway, I'll put the link in the description. Both bikes are up and running, full of gas. Oil has been changed. I did tinker with the idle mixture. The blue bike ended up needing about a third open from closed, all the way closed. The green bike, about half a turn. So a third of a turn open, almost half, and a half a turn. Seem to deliver the best throttle response in idle. So yeah, maybe carburetor upgrades for these are not such a bad idea. Also, make sure you change that oil, because the oil that comes out of these things, I don't know where it came from, but it's some pretty nasty looking stuff. So get that oil out of there and put some good motorcycle oil in there. Hopefully make your clutches and everything last a little longer than what would be considered normal. But yeah, both bikes they're a hoot, man. Me and my son were ripping around the neighborhood on them yesterday. It was a good time, good time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully it was helpful. If you have any questions, you know what to do with them down in the comments. You guys have a good one. And if you buy an Ice Bear Champion, get it from Bobcats. They treated me right. Of course, I paid for both these bikes, so this isn't a paid an advertisement for them, but I want to give someone a shout out if they treat me well, and these guys really did a good job. Bought the bikes one day, picked them up the next, assembled them the third day. So here we are with bikes ready to rip 3 days later. So you guys have a good one, and I'll catch you out there sometime.